Hi there, my name's Jamie. I live in a kind of permanent pilgrimage. So I'm recording this little video in one of my favorite places, the Canary Islands. This is the southwest of Gran Canaria, and this is my natural habitat up in the mountains, about an hour and a half away from town. I wanted to talk today about the online Ascension Guidance Sessions that I deliver through my website. It doesn't matter where I am in the world, but I can continue, I suppose, the miracles of modern technology to deliver this service. I think even though I work with a wide variety of individuals who are at radically different stages of their journeys, what they have in common is the fact that they are answering a deep invitation to become who and what they really are, to level up their point of perception, to increase their awareness, and to change sometimes the nuts and bolts of their life, always the internal world, trying to harmonize that and then see the external world fall into place. So this is one of the things I do. This is one of the services that Be All You Are offers. I myself went through sort of classic awakening in 2008. Tough time. And by 2012, I'd started doing long distance walking, started on the Camino Santiago. And as a result of some things that happened in my first pilgrimage, I went through my Kundalini awakening at the beginning of 2012. And actually that year I didn't have an awful lot of interest in anything else apart from that, this new energy that was present in my body. And I didn't know so much that was out there, you know, what this thing was called Ascension. And as that year progressed, the Kundalini process intensified, and I discovered all sorts of teachers and writings and videos and so on. And I really discovered what was going on with me. And actually by the end of that year, in December 2012, I understood that what was happening was the gradual integration of the spiritual light body into the physical form. And this is a very difficult thing to talk to people about. Perhaps it's easier now, but 10 years ago it was still difficult. A lot of problems with sort of terminology and so on in communicating that concept. What we realized, and what many people knew much more than I did at the time, was that this was a first wave of ascension of humanity, a big jump, big evolutionary jump. And anyway, fast forward, 11 years from that, and here I am running my website, like I say, living in a kind of permanent pilgrimage, constantly on the road, finding good places to camp, running self-discovery adventures for individuals, again through the website. I learned to embrace my my eternal essence as a ascension poet, I suppose, permanent pilgrim poet. And I spend a lot of my time writing, and I hope to publish a book at some stage. My pathway has been tough, and I think part of my message is perhaps a little unpalatable for some, that this incredible opportunity, this incredible process, this fantastic invitation, which is no doubt in some way finding its way into your life, it has the capacity to bring you incredible rewards, both in your being, in your physicality, and also it has the capacity to, I use the phrase, kick the shit out of you quite often, like putting you through a washing machine of some kind. This sort of 3D world that we live in, it's a great training program for a being, for a soul, for a spirit, for a solo sovereign self. It has the capacity to polarize very strongly. So my methodology, really working with people, whether I'm perhaps dealing with individuals who are on that path, maybe they've had some experience of the various kinds of Kundalini awakening, maybe they're going through those initial stages of the gradual integration of the light body. Maybe quite a lot of people I'm working with are just going through their spiritual awakening, let's call it that. I mean, one of the problems, one of the issues, is that you're always at the starting line on any training program. Really, you're always at the starting line, even when you graduate. Really, you're sort of on to the next thing, onto the whatever it is, master's level, PhD, whatever. So yeah, I would say I work with quite a lot of people who are going through this kind of initial awakening and having a lot of doubt, maybe about their capacity to live the true self way. Maybe they need some confidence, is often an issue. Sometimes it's really nuts and bolts things. As a writer, as a poet, actually just having a little notebook that you keep in your pocket and a pencil on hand at all times, or even using the phone, which I do a lot actually when I'm moving around, to jot things down, to do little voice memos and so on. This is a great, it may not seem such a big thing at the start, but it has the capacity to really kickstart the creative process. Before long, a couple of weeks of doing that, and suddenly you've got the beginnings of something. The same for other art forms, sketching and so on. I'm certainly dealing with quite a lot of people who are having quite what I would call intense sort of glimpses of ascension. This is quite a common thing that people experience. Having some crazy night where you're having some kind of rapturous, blissful download coming in, and 6 months later you access that in a more permanent way, and maybe permanent's not the right word, but a more, you've built up to it. this is quite common. So quite a lot of my clients are going through some, can be quite scary or quite, well, you wouldn't want to talk to a psychiatrist about some of these things. Carted off to a loony bin. So I think that's probably the three main types of client that I'm working with. You're going through your classic spiritual awakening, which is happening to more and more people, and working with those individuals, to get on the right track, and obviously the changes to be made, as the life sort of unravels around you. These are big things, and it does help, of course, to embrace, the changes, perhaps that you've always known that you wanted to make, but perhaps you didn't have the experience or the inspiration or the confidence to do it. So working with those individuals, they're actually, with everyone, is really making one's creativity the driving force of one's life. This is super important. A sort of second group of people would be they're getting glimpses of ascension. So perhaps they're a period of time into this awesome process, and here we often need validation and somebody who's walked a similar road and can communicate that and adapt the way that they talk to individuals can be very useful as a mentor. And then perhaps the last group is this people who are a little further down the line with this light body integration. I certainly know that a lot of people are at a similar point than I was in 2012. I get a lot of contact where that's coming through very strongly. So perhaps this is a kind of second wave. I'm making this video in December 2023. So perhaps it's best to think of this as a kind of second wave, a third wave. It's hierarchical, but training programs are a little bit like that. I do find meeting online to be super useful, super fluid and flowy. It's important, it's necessary for me because of my lifestyle, but I know that my clients also relish the freedom that it gives them and the capacity to be in their own space, really, be in privacy and have whatever they need when they meet with me. Actually, often we just do it through the phone. Video can be good. It can also be slightly distracting, or quite often we have a little bit of video at the beginning and then switch off the cameras and focus on the words and on that kind of communication. I think what is important, one of the important things to realize is that which has occurred up to now in your life is relevant. Perhaps you've gone off the rails, or you've been very much, or you felt very much not in alignment. But I certainly feel that it's a little bit like we learn to reprioritize, we learn to remix what was already in our world. And that's something that I can assist people that I work with. So harmonize, embody, create true self. That's what I use as the sort of tagline on my website and Instagram and YouTube and so on. This encapsulates my work really, to harmonize. We're looking to move towards a kind of personal harmony in our internal worlds, and then let that power the external world to fall into place around us. There's so many different modalities out there. People that I work with are doing all sorts of different things. My way through the online sessions is through talking about what's going on, through understanding that it's this direct life experience which is training us, working with people to build up the confidence, make those little changes, make those changes which have probably been around, been sort of knocking on your door to be made for a long time. To harmonize. This is so much key. Even now for me, I have to work on this, perhaps worrying about, I don't know, finances or, silly things which stress me out or trigger me or something like that. But, I still, all of us, at whatever stage we are having to do considerable amount of work on that. So yeah, so this idea of moving towards harmony is super important when working with me, and when learning to embrace all that you are. Embodiment. This is key on so many different levels, from your awakening right up to the light body integration. Because we really have to put things into action. We really have to embody the changes, the changes in our life, the changes in our mentality and our emotional being. And light body integration is exactly that. I mean, enlightenment is a term used in, so many different ways. Which is great, but really for me now, enlightenment really means embodying the light, so embodying the light body. And what this is how to explain it is complex, and it's also simple. It's an ascension and descension process of the self that you are. People call it the lower self, or what do you want to call that, the 3D self or the little self. Nothing's really particularly fantastic in terms of the terminology for that, but the let's call it the lower self and the higher self, or the divine self. So this is your eternal essence. So the ascension and descension process is these coming together in your physical form. So embodiment, and this is relevant at all stages. Like I was talking about remixing what's in your world. For example, I was interested, I tried my hand at a bit of poetry over the years, and so it wasn't a surprise really when the first of my spiritual poems started sort of coming in. I did find it a little difficult to embrace that, perhaps, a little difficult to let go of the old me along the way. I think that's common to a lot of people, but it keeps going, and they keep unfolding of sort of revelations about yourself. So it's not a surprise to me now that this is what I do. It's a big part of what I do in terms of time spent in the day, focus on projects and so on. Anyway, I'm losing my track a little bit. Embodiment. Yeah, and also to say, you know, at this time, one must be careful. There's so much sort of spiritual marketing out there. You know, you need to check that individuals are really embodying what they're talking about. And I suppose lots of people are sort of selling the idea of a sort of perfect life being relatively simple to achieve. I mean, that may in some way be true, but this ascension and descension process is tough. It's a tough way. It's going to take you down some roads you never would have chosen to go down. What's the next thing in my tagline? What do we got? Harmonize, embody, create. So creativity it just becomes more and more important. I mean, this is real work. This is I sort of understand the word work as being rather different to society. The creative work is the most important thing. It's the most important driving force. And this is a lot of the work I do with people is really, I suppose, getting them to understand that, you know, getting them to understand that, getting them to embrace that, just getting them going. You know, at some point they don't need me anymore, you know, and that's a real success. If that happens after one session, then fabulous. Create true self. So certainly I have experience in working with people who are very resistant to some of the changes that they know that they need to make. And at the other end of the spectrum is people who are sort of raring to go and just may benefit from having some mentoring, really, about how to go about that. What I think is important for a lot of people is to spend time away from the context perhaps they got used to in the past. You know how this works, social roles and expectations, family, friends, career. And I do the other thing I do through Be All You Are. Well, there's a couple of other things, but the main other thing I do is run these self-discovery adventures, which is essentially coming and living in a remote spot and listening. So yeah, true self. Listening is so important for that. To make progress along that journey. However we go about it, we have to disentangle ourselves from lower, denser realities, both internally and externally in the context we find ourselves in, we put ourselves in. We need to make connections, and equally we need to make disconnections, have strategies for dealing with the world and dealing with what comes to us. As we make progress towards embodiment of true self, this becomes something that we're more in control of. that we find that the reality that we're experiencing is very much coming from ourselves, from what we're transmitting. So this idea of true self, this is a continual unfolding and set of revelations really about what that really is. The choices that we make, the focus that we put on, what we put focus on. So this journey to true self is a wonderful but very exacting path. And through Be All You Are, through these sessions, I've had a lot of success with helping people with that. Sometimes you've got to come to terms with the journey that you've had up to now, all the happenings, the states of being that you found yourself in over the years. It certainly gets easier. I, at some point, began to forget how it felt to be lost or, I don't know, depressed or not on track. And I imagine that this pathway continues and continues in whatever happens in a being's evolution. You know, it's a continual refining of frequency. It's a continual learning to hold your own frequency at the same time as becoming the solo sovereign self of your own world. It's also developing the humility and compassion to be in the world and to be a responsible creator. I suppose I think of myself as a responsible spiritual pirate in some way. I'm often dropping bits of gear off, digging holes in the ground or putting them in the mountains in a cave, you know, so I'm quite piratey in my behavior. But I've had to learn a great deal of responsibility to deliver these sessions, to take great care in my writing and in my art, and in my being in everyday life, you know, to have a positive impact on the world. So that's it. Harmonize, embody, create, true self. I do position myself affordably and accessibly. I'm often contacted by some marketing companies or something, and one of the first things they say is perhaps I should charge more for my services and so, you know, this kind of thing. But actually, I'm happy with my price point, and I also am very open to being contacted by individuals who are not able to afford those prices. You know, all you have to do is get in touch and communicate with me about it, and we'll come to an arrangement. I've never had a situation where I've had to say no to anyone. The Be All You Are mentoring plan is designed to make it very affordable to work on a regular basis with me. So that's my suggestion. At the same time, a lot of people like the flexibility of just running it on an individual session basis. You can book online. You can get in touch with me. You know, you have any issues, just let me know. We'll resolve them. So that's that. Online Ascension Guidance Sessions through Be All You Are with me, Jamie Shaw. I'm really looking forward to working with you. Hear from you soon.